All right, y'all. So tonight we should actually be seeing the EZA details for Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. Earlier this week, they announced that we are getting all 4 EZAs for the original 2022 superhero characters, which does include the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest from 4 years ago at this point, pretty much. Well, I guess more so 3 years ago, but you guys kind of get what I'm saying. They technically released in 2022, and they are now going to be our first 2026 EZA LRs. The Gammas are going to be our first 2026 EZA TURs, and their details should be tonight, basically the 4th, at 12 a.m. Pacific time. Then we'll have the data download. Then 48 hours after the details, we do have them drop in game, which is going to be the 6th. And again, these two characters were honestly one of the better releases in Dokkan just history. I think Gamma 1, especially, that boy lasted all throughout 2023, and even in 2024 when we had the year 9 Gamma's LR release, this guy was very good next to them, especially since he got some special equips. Gamma 2 was more offensive and he aged out a bit quicker, but he still has some things in his kit like a Ki Blast nullification, all these additionals. These guys have a bunch of multiplicative passes in their kind of kit. They have, well, specifically Gamma 1 has guard plus damage reduction and a super attack counter. Like, there's so much that these guys do. And I think that their EZAs are going to be very important for especially Gamma 2 and Power Awakening Piccolo. This guy really needs like a turn 1 Gamma linking partner. I feel like he's a little weak early on, and that's really because like he's missing 15% attack and innocence, Android Assault 20% attack, Ruderman Army 10% attack and defense, Hero of Justice 25% attack. Like, look at all the attack and defense this guy gets from all these links. And you know, some of his better linking partners, you know, you're not really gonna see until later on, if not at all. I mean, like this guy, that's 6 links right there, but this is like earliest turn 4. And you know, I mean, we do have some long fights now, which I will be trying live later tonight. I will actually be streaming Genshin and Dokkan on YouTube to lead up to the EZA details. But it's like, you know, we need these two to EZA because they're just turn 1. And this guy's biggest weakness is short fights early on. I think as much help as possible as he can get early on would be really ideal. So I kind of had that in mind when designing these characters. Then this guy doesn't really need the help as much, but Gamma 1, it really would be nice, I think, for the Gamma side of this cards to just have more linking partners. Because I feel like, you know, between Ultimate Gohan and Gamma 1, I don't really see much reason to switch to Gamma 1 unless I need a linking partner for Gamma 2 and I want to have, like, you know, a really strong Gamma turn. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do with these guys at the EZAs. Again, I'm very, very hopeful. I actually do have concepts made for them, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at what the people, you know, of the Dokkan community are thinking. And we see, again, there's a lot of excitement and buzz around. Like, I feel like when it comes to the new superhero characters, people didn't care as much for them compared to, I think, other previous New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest characters, especially because this isn't necessarily bringing a new scene to the game or anything like that, or something that hasn't been done in a very long time necessarily. Like, it's just Ultimate Gohan, Gamma 1, Power Awakening Piccolo, and, like, you know, Gamma 2. It's not like, you know, oh, we have finally our Sentinel and Orange Piccolo or a Transforming Beast Gohan, right? That's like something that I think people would be more hyped for. I assume we could still see that, like, that kind of character, maybe not this year, but like in 2027 when we have some more of the superhero EZAs available. But again, let's just go ahead and take a look at my concepts here. So we'll look at Gamma 1 first, and then we'll look at Gamma 2. And again, I kind of wanted to keep a general basis of how their kit was, of course, before EZA, and what I think we could see them do after EZA. So for Gamma 1, I actually gave him defense stacking, raises defense, greatly raises attack for 4 turns, causes immense damage. And the reason why is because I think that Gamma 1 obviously will be, like, it makes sense for these guys to be stackers, considering that I think these two characters are stackers. I also would say that they are looking to give more long-term fights, right? You know, like, not long-term, but like longer fights in terms of the length that the fight is. So it would make sense if they wanted to give these guys some ability to continue being strong even past the early on stages of a fight, because I feel like that's where Gamma 1 especially, like, you know, he loses the guard and he kind of like, he doesn't necessarily like drop off, but it would be nice for him to have an ability to continue getting stronger even in these longer fights. And I think that's where defense stacking can be really helpful. I mean, Gohan and Gamma 1 have defense stacking as well, but I think giving this guy, like, you know, defense stacking would especially make him like a really strong slot 1 potential option for these long fights, right? So passive skill, 111% attack and defense, and then guards all attacks for 4 turns. That was changed from 50%, and then now guards, you know, all attacks for 4 turns. Basically just added defense here, made it 111% just because Gamma 1. Then I gave him an additional super attack guaranteed for 1 turn. That way he gets just an extra free defense stack just early on in the battle, allowing him to kind of sustain himself for later on in fights when he loses the guard. Basic effects, I gave him key 3 here, and then 250% attack and defense instead of 150%. I gave him a flat 50% damage reduction rate and a chance from a critical hit. Before, this guy built up to 50% damage reduction. I decided to just give him 50% crit and damage reduction just as a baseline, just because I think it makes sense, right? You know, it is just inherently a weakness for characters to have to receive attacks to build up their main defensive mechanic. I think that is just a flawed kind of concept and design, especially for these short fights that are usually very strong right from the beginning anyways. So in order to allow this guy to kind of sustain himself like as a slot 1 character earlier on, giving him all that damage reduction right from the start, I think would be ideal. Then this is where I kind of put my own spin to it, where he used to give key 1 and 30% defense to all allies. I changed it to key 1 and 70% defense to all allies. I think 70% defense kind of feels roughly like support characters are getting like 70, 80 like kind of percent support now to attack and defense. So, you know, all allies just key 1 and 70% defense I think is fair, you know, for modern times. Then 12% damage reduction support to characters whose name includes Gamma 2 specifically. So this is, again, experimental, but they don't throw out damage reduction rate usually. And especially like a number like 12% is very high. But I think it is also accustomed by having specifically, you know, only applied to Gamma 2 characters. Now, the only reason why I didn't make it just to Gamma characters in general is because I feel like I would like to give Gamma 2 characters just an extra layer of defense if you decide to run that Gamma 1 with him. Especially this guy, you know, it would be cool for him to get a little bit of extra damage reduction, just because he only has this, this guy has this like 20% reduction rate just built in. Then we'll see, you know, with this Gamma 2 specifically, but, you know, there's any kind of work together. I feel like it would be nice, and, you know, this also does apply to Power Awakening Piccolo, where Power Awakening Piccolo has 50% reduction here, then another 20% here, so he would actually be able to get 80% damage reduction, right, which would be very, very strong when you have this Gamma 1 around. But in kind of exchange for that, you would also lose out on a lot of the links that Piccolo would have, right? So unless this guy's a floating character, you know, to like, you know, LR Orange Piccolo and then that Orange Piccolo rotation, it wouldn't really mean too much. And even with that in mind, this guy as a floating character wouldn't be getting a lot of stacks. So there's like kind of like the balance of like, you know, oh, you don't gain everything if you run the rotation a certain way, you lose something, but you still benefit, right? Does that make sense? I think you guys kind of get where I'm going for with that, by restricting it just to Gamma 2. And Gamma 1 I think is gonna be just fine without all the extra damage reduction. Like Gamma 1 cards, especially this guy, like he does not need more damage reduction. He is fine as he is. Imagine this guy with another 10% reduction. He's perfectly good as he is right now. I do not think he needs the extra 12% damage reduction. And, you know, it allows me to, you know, instead of it being like, oh, if it was both Gammas, maybe I would make it just like 7% reduction. Since it's just Gamma 2, I feel more comfortable making it this 12%, which will really help these Gamma 2 type of characters like succeed in really difficult content. And, you know, when we especially consider that, you know, Gamma 1 and Gohan do stack defense, Gamma 2 and Piccolo stack attack. So getting this extra reduction is just really cool. Then, again, just basically increasing what he used to have. So Gamma 1 builds up to 250% attack and defense compared to him used to building up to just 100%. He gets 20% extra crit and damage reduction after receiving 4 attacks essentially for every attack received. So this guy actually in total has 70% reduction. Now, keep in mind, I think the reason why I gave him that is because he loses his guard after the first 4 turns. So I think just like a flat 50% reduction, even with defense stacking, is probably not high enough to really sustain in long fights, like to an extraordinary amount. So that's why I gave him the extra 20% reduction. I think that will allow this guy really to like pop off. And even on top of that, after he receives 5 attacks in battle, he'll get another 100% attack defense and then a guaranteed additional super, which will allow him to consistently get those stacks off in later, like, you know, longer fights, right? And against unarmed super attacks, he has a 70% chance to counter its nullify and counter specifically. So I think, you know, this feels like what I would like to see from Gamma 1 post EZA, just really keeping a lot of that tanky defensive support vibes. I don't really care about this guy doing a lot of damage necessarily, that's never his role. Gamma 2 is kind of like more of the damage dealing character, and we'll see from that. And again, I think that they usually like to stay close to what the character was like in their original release, and at least like the general aspect of what they wanted the character to be. So like, you know, this character was a support pre-EZA, this character was a damage dealer pre-EZA, this character was a dodge character pre-EZA. Like, they like to keep the general idea of the character. Now we can take a look at Gamma 2. Of course, I made him the offensive kind of variant of Gamma 1. So we see here, this guy does stack attack, greatly raises defense for 4 turns, and causes immense damage. So I mean, this super attack is arguably stronger for short fights than Gamma 1's, funny enough, because even though Gamma 1 does stack his defense, it is still a 4-turn defense stack for 50% compared to a permanent 30% defensive stack. On top of this, we know Gamma 2 does a bunch of additionals, right? So on his entrance animation, he will get 222% attack and defense, which is just a whole lot of extra stats compared to Gamma 1. Then he'll launch an additional attack, which has a 70% chance to be a super for 4 turns. Now you may notice this used to be 2 additional super attacks. The reason why it's only 1 now is because I added a guaranteed additional super attack to his basic effects. No RNG, nothing like that. This guy will always launch an additional super attack in his basic effects here. And I changed this additional in his intro to just being a 70%. So I'm basically, he used to have 2 additionals with a medium chance. I moved one of these to basic effects, so you always have it, and then I changed the one that's existing in here to a 70% chance to be a super. Then added this extra effect here, where on turn 1 he will always perform critical hits. Then on turn 1 he also has 50% damage reduction before attacking. This will allow this guy to, you know, in case he gets locked in slot 1, or in situations where he is primarily against these AoE attacks that might hit him a bit hard turn 1, he'll be able to sustain. And then after that, he'll be able to build up his own stats, and he builds up quite a bit, right? So if we see right here, key through 250%, same as usual. His support, where he has a 40% chance to crit as well, that is, you know, we'll talk about it in a bit, right? But this 40% chance to crit will matter because he's a damage dealing character. All allies will get key 2 and 70% attack. Then he gives 70% defense to allies whose name includes Gamma 1. I mean, honestly, I think this is pretty strong for those existing Gamma 1 characters because they're all stacking. And I think this even base 70% defense will help him go a long way, especially even in potentially longer content too. But yeah, I mean, there's not really going to be an equivalent to 12% reduction like that Gamma 1 is providing. But Gamma 2 is providing a lot of extra attack here and like pushing the team a little further, right? When attacking with 12 or more ki, he has 200% attack and defense. Then for every attack performed, Gamma 2 does get 50% attack and defense up to 200%, 10% damage reduction rate, crit up to 40% here. So again, if we're kind of looking here, the idea is that turn 1, he has this 50% before attacking and guaranteed crits. Then after he gets a bunch of these attacks off, he'll get up to an 80% chance to crit and still have 40% damage reduction left over. And you see here 100% attack and defense and a guaranteed additional super attack after he does 5 attacks. So essentially, the idea is his intro additional will wear off, but then he'll get this guaranteed additional super attack later on. So he's doing 3 guaranteed supers at the end of fights, all of them greatly raising his defense for 4 turns, all of them letting him stack attack. And he has a Ki Blast nullification, which the first time he has a Ki Blast aimed at him, he will guaranteed nullify it, which again, let's say locking in the Goku Black Zamasu fight, Rose instantly supers this guy, Gamma 2 is like, actually, no, I hate you. I'm gonna nullify that for sure. And I think that can be really good. But that's the general idea behind this guy. And we see he has a lot of extra stats compared to what Gamma 1's doing. We see, you know, if we kind of add everything up together, like, you know, obviously there's like different multiplicative things, but that's the 111 in the intro, and then a 250 right here in his actual basic effects. Then he builds up another 250%, then he gets 100% after receiving a bunch of these attacks, right? But this guy has the guard and all the super high damage reduction rate, whereas this Gamma 2 is getting a lot of extra stats, right? Because he has 200% when attacking. So once we consider all of that, Gamma 2 is actually going to be able to put up way higher just like stat numbers, I feel like, and even potentially just look more impressive than Gamma 1, but he's a slot 2 character that wants to ideally attack first, and he'll be doing more damage. So they kind of, again, are doing different things. This guy's your slot 1 tank support. This character is going to help make the team really push and do a lot of extra damage and make sure that you're not, you know, falling behind, especially from a lot of these kind of bosses that build up attack over time. Like this guy will be able to start melting them. But that's my general idea for what I want them to do, which, you know, if you really dumb it down, tank support, damage support. That's it, right? So I hope that looks good for you guys. Let's take a look here what some people are thinking they want these guys to be though. All right, so we have this here. Hot take, you want Gamma 2 to be better. Gamma 2 is the TUR version of Gohan, and Gamma 1 is the TUR version of Orange Piccolo. In that Gamma 1 has a setup to already be a good EZA. Gamma 2 needs more help and deserves a busted EZA like Gohan. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. I get you. Like, they mean the upcoming EZAs, not like the existing characters, but like the upcoming EZAs for these two. Yeah, I can see that. I think Gamma 2 needs a lot more done to him. Gamma 1 has a lot of things in his kit that will let him, like, even with the minimal additions, like, as you see, we keep a lot of Gamma 1's kind of, like, I didn't really add much to him besides adding, like, buffing his numbers, but to Gamma 2, I kind of moved things around. I gave him damage reduction. I gave him all these extra additional super attacks. I gave him critical hit chance built in. Like, I added more things so this guy's can move more things around than Gamma 1's, because Gamma 1 has less needed to kind of succeed, right? So, I mean, if they really give Gamma 2 treatment, he could end up being better than Gamma 1. I definitely can agree with that. I mean, my Gamma 2 concept might even be better than my Gamma 1 concept. I don't know. It's situational. Hoping that Gamma 2 has 300% attacking defense, guaranteed additional, and then guard with a high chance of dodge. I mean, guard would be nice too. Dodge chance, I mean, they can give this guy dodge chance. Gammas don't usually, like, is there a Gamma that has dodge? I don't think so. I think most Gammas have just, like, damage reduction, no? Because I don't even think the free-to-play ones have dodge. No, like they're all like, you know, damage reduction or nullification based. They don't usually have, like, you know, dodge built into their kit. So Gamma 1, you want 30% damage reduction that builds up to 80% of total with guard for 4 turns. Then you want this guy to have 80% dodge in total. Okay, I see. I mean, one of these turns he'd have guaranteed dodge. I guess, you know, what I mean, really be mind. You think Gamma 1 will be undertuned and disappoint everyone, whilst Gamma 2 will just be okay, but still seem worse than Gamma 1. This guy doesn't care about Gamma 2. I feel like there's a lot of mixed opinion. I want both of them to be good. Why am I seeing y'all talk about, like, oh, you know, I think this guy will be bad. I mean, I guess it's not impossible for one of these guys to end up being bad, but we'll see. Gamma 2, you think it will be the best T1 in the game by a mile? I mean, it's not difficult to, like, overtune an EZA by accident. They've done that before. Gamma 1 is either the best or second best TUR. I think it depends what he provides besides tanking, because he's going to need a lot to compete with Gohan Sensu. Yeah, the Gohan Sensu turn is absurd. I mean, it just does so much. It heals, removes any negative effects, and then the amount of damage this guy does on that turn is actually ludicrous, considering that how tanky he is on top of that. Like, it's actually insane. And he's supporting, by the way, like a really dumb character. I don't expect him to be better than, you know, the Gohan, but I don't expect him to not be like very competitive in the meta. I say meta, but like, you know, it's PvE. Took a million damage. Number 1 and 2 overall, I doubt it. Let Gamma 2 function without Gamma 1. Yeah, that would be nice. As you see, like, I feel like, I don't know, at the same time, like, okay, well, this guy, again, he built up to the 40% reduction, but he would get 50% when he's with this Gamma 1, or 52%. I think that at the end of the day, the Gammas will want to be with each other in terms of linking partners because of how much they get from their links. And, like, you know, there's not really other androids that they share as many links with. Like, we see 16 isn't even on here. Like 17, you know, they share like android social link speed first battle. I think 16 might be here though. No, doesn't 16 have cold? Does 16 not have cold regiment? He doesn't actually. I thought he did. I guess I misremembered that, but 16 does have like android assault, right? They would have android assault, fierce battle shocking speed. Does 16 have shocking speed actually? I actually don't remember. He does not. See, so like just android assault and fierce battle. Yeah, the Gammas really want to link with each other anyway, so I feel like they're gonna want to function with each other, just like for the best case scenario. But Gamma 1 just might not need, like, inherently it's easier to be a defensive character without links than it is to be an offensive character without links, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I feel like I've seen things like that happen. These EZAs will set the expectations for the earlier EZAs, so probably very good. Both of them, you don't think Gamma 2 is getting fumbled. During the last Superhero New Year's, though, we also got double dual Dokkan Fest EZAs and double LR EZAs, and Physical Broly wasn't that good. I mean, yeah, if you guys don't remember, I probably just will look up just Broly. We had Agio Gogeta and Physical Broly EZAs. Agio Gogeta was good. This guy was pretty ass. Like, he kind of did nothing. Like, look at this. I mean, let me bring up Gogeta so you guys can see an example. The difference, you know, even though these EZs are like super old, like, let's take a look here. Gogeta had super effective. He had the high chance to dodge. He wasn't even anything crazy in Super Saiyan Gogeta, but like when this guy transformed, 70% chance to dodge, multiplicative attack right here, guaranteed crit, this 4-turn raise, like he was doing a lot of damage with, especially with the guaranteed crits. Then Broly, he had no defensive mechanics, man. That was all he was missing. And he had to do 3 supers to get this additional super. But that was such, oh god, I'm remembering how stupid this was, because it took him so long to get that. Like, he had to transform in turn 4, and then unlike Gogeta's like, yep, I dodge and then I built this up. Like, it's super easy for the Gogeta to get that. Broly's like, okay, you need to make sure you hit this high chance, and then you have to get the RNG for the additional super. Okay, if you don't get that, we have to go to the next turn. Then we gotta hope for the same thing at least once, so then the turn after, this guy will get that. And then it's like, okay, that's turn 4, he transforms. Turn 6, you gotta hope for that. And if you don't get it on turn 6, like if you don't get it on that turn 4, turn 6, then your turn 8. And then you could finally get this additional super attack, which even with this, his defenses were not enough. You know why? Because he had no multiplicative defense in his kit. No damage reduction, no guard. God, this guy was so annoyingly bad. Like, he was so close. But they are like, nah, I hate you, actually. I don't think they make the same mistake. But yeah, Physical Broly wasn't that great. Yeah. We'll read like 2 or 3 more, just because I don't want to overdo it, because I did recently like recover-ish, but you could probably hear a little bit of my voice. Actually, I probably will have to end here. Gamma 1 will have 30% intro 5 turns, Widow 20%. Gamma 2 will have 70% dodge before attacking. So this is just, you want Gamma 1 to have just a bunch of reduction and Gamma 2 to be dodged. We'll read this one and we'll end, because I don't want to like fuck up my throat. Permanent guard from intro, 20% reduction, 5 turns, 100% attack and defense. Then you want Gamma 1 to, after receiving the 5 attacks, get a 50% crit chance, permanent 10% reduction. So you want him to have 60% reduction with guard in total. And you want his guard to be permanent. I think that's fair. Then another 50% defense when you're assuming an attack. Yeah, I mean, that can be pretty good for Gamma 1, but I don't know. I don't think anyone's worried about Gamma 1. I think, you know, I see a lot of people worried about Gamma 2. Like, I think people are saying Gamma 2 will either be the best you are or bad, which I think is valid. So let's see what happens. We'll find out tonight. I will be live. I appreciate y'all for watching. Let me know what you're thinking, and I'll catch you guys next time.